On today's episode of That Mental Ginger Show, we are talking to writer, singer, director Greg Friel. Greg is getting ready to premiere his brand new film, Pop Gun Friel the Need, which will be out on the 16th of September. I highly recommend you get along to it. But before that, please watch the video.
All right, troops.
Greg, it has been too long since we last spoke. How are you doing, my friend?
I am very well, sir. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Look, all the better now that I finally left my day job. It feels like that burden has finally been lifted from my shoulders. You know, that way you just feel that bit lighter, like there's a bit more of a spring in your step.
Well, I think if you're a creative, you just need to be creative every day.
Yeah,
and if there's anything that's holding you back, you can like, you know what? I don't really feel like myself unless I'm just doing this and just being able to throw yourself into it, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And it's something that really only other creatives get. Well, especially when you're in day jobs and they're like, well, you've got a job, and I'm like, yeah, but not the job I want. I would rather take a risk I'd rather take a risk with the job I want than play it safe with a job that I just have to have.
No, absolutely. I mean, I've never had a job, so I've always been self-employed. I think I had a job for maybe 3 months working in a bar, and then they fired me because I was just like the worst waiter in the world. I was meant to be playing the piano, but I played the piano like an hour and a half a week, and then the rest of the time they had me waiting at tables, and they fired me. And then I was like, right, that's it. I just need to not work for anybody.
Yeah, definitely a good plan. Well, being your own boss, I think everybody gets to that kind of stage where they're like, I'm just sick of taking other people's shit. And you just need to break out on your own, and that's I was at that stage 10 years ago. I just now have the brain power to finally be able to do it.
I think the thing is, it takes a lot of guts, especially if if you're used to being in that role and, you know, and working for somebody else. You've got the regular income and you've got all of that. There's a safety net there, you know. But if you are going out on your own, you don't.
Yeah, definitely.
And that takes a lot of guts to do it if you're not used to it. For me, it's always been the way for me, so I'm kind of used to it. You ride the highs and the lows, but I literally couldn't work for anybody.
No,
I am unemployable.
Well, they're not unemployable to yourself. That's the main thing.
And also, I get to give myself a day off if I want. I'm going to take a day off today. There we go.
Exactly, and that's the thing that I was really wanting. It was especially when it gets to the kids are going to be going to school in a couple of years, and then it'll be at summer holiday time, and having to jump through hoops to get all the the time off. I was like, you know what, I can't. I want to spend as much time with them as I can. So if I graft my ass off so I can get the time to just say I'm taking time off in the summer, I'm covered, then I can do it. If I can take time off, I've missed too many Christmases and New Year's with them through having to go to work and back. I am not missing anymore. So that was it.
But I think that's the thing. You make a decision, and you know, once you've made that decision, that there's certain work-life choices that, you know, and balance that you just want to have, and you're like, no, I want that, and I don't want that.
Exactly.
And it's a trade-off that you're either prepared to have or you're not. You know.
Exactly. Enough about me and my madness. We're here to talk about you and your madness, or as I call it, the origin story. Because if there's one thing we all have in common, we all have an origin. So, Greg, for my faithful followers, please tell us your origin story.
I was born in Ireland quite a while ago, and then moved to Scotland, and then moved to New York, and then moved back to Scotland. My dad worked in the tourism industry, so we traveled quite a lot. When I was a kid, I think I had something like 14 different addresses before I was 16.
Wow.
And then we settled in Scotland and Glasgow. And as you know, as I mentioned before, I was really not interested in anything else or working for anybody. My dad was insistent that I go to university. So I went to Glasgow Uni, I did an MA degree, hated being at uni. And graduated and tried to get a job, and I couldn't really get a job, nor did I want one. but I was playing piano in bars and restaurants and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just to make some money, to pay to get through uni, and I kind of kept on doing that. And then I eventually got an agent to do that, and then I got an agent that introduced me to my wife, who she was a singer who I started working with, and we ended up working together doing shows for years and years and years.
Wow.
And then I eventually the whole thing was I was able to do gigs at the weekend, but during the week I was able to do writing and producing and just kind of work on music. So I would use the time during the week to, network and to get to know other musicians or whatever. And, back then, because it's like late 90s, the idea of having a home studio and all that kind of thing was still not, it was still in its infancy. You didn't have the tech that you have now.
Yeah.
So I kind of had a version of that in the sort of late 90s, and I was able to start doing that. And then I started doing tracks for people, and by the time I got to sort of mid 2000s, I was producing records for people, and I was really working full time as a writer, songwriter, and a producer. And that took me all over the place. So, I've done records in Amsterdam, and worked in Germany and stuff out in the Far East, and done music projects in Nashville, New York, and ended up working with the talk show host Ellen DeGeneres in Hollywood.
Wow.
And it's kind of, you've been really, really varied, and, highs and lows.
Yeah.
And then about maybe, I did that solidly for about 10 years. Excuse me, not doing anything else. And it's a really, really tough way to make a living. And I kind of sort of take a step back from it. To speak about mental health, really, it was really just not good for my mental health from the point of view of it. I had maybe about 5 or 6 big projects that I was working on that kind of all came crashing down at one time.
Wow.
And there comes a point when, you need to win a few. And if all you're doing is not getting any, you've got hope, but there needs to be some level of achievement along the way. Otherwise, you're just like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And I had loads of disappointments in a row, like on an epic level. And I was like, you know what? I actually just need to take a step away from this for a bit, because I don't want to become one of those people that's just bitter and twisted and doesn't want to do music or hates music. But I definitely needed to step away from the industry. So I did that and started working with businesses and doing team building programs with businesses where I'd do choir projects and songwriting projects and that kind of thing. And I'd always done videos. And I started rather than just doing music videos for artists, I started doing promo videos for businesses and doing a lot of social media stuff, social media content. And it was good to just sort of step away from that world. And strangely, over the past sort of 5 or 6 years, I've now got a really, really broad group of friends, which I didn't have before. The nature of my work was just I'd go to the studio, come home, that would be it.
Yeah.
So I have very few friends from the music industry, but I've got lots of friends in the wider business community that are incredibly supportive and have been amazing to get to know, and especially through lockdown and all that kind of thing. We've all been helping each other, and it's been amazing, really, really fantastic. So and over the past couple of years, I've dipped my toe back into doing music stuff. I mean, I was always doing music projects, but in terms of industry stuff, I'm doing some stuff that I want to do. And if I don't want to do it, I'm not doing it.
I'm glad to hear that. Well, you need to put yourself first.
Well, absolutely. And there just comes a point where you kind of go, you know what? If I don't want to do this, I'm not going to do it. If it's making you unhappy, you're like, why am I doing this? And back to your point you mentioned earlier on about having a job. For me, the whole idea was, if it feels like a job, then I don't want to be doing it. I'm self-employed because I don't want to have a job. Not because I'm lazy, but just because I don't want it feeling like a job. So
Yeah,
if I
exactly.
start doing work that I'm like, no, this feels too like a job, then
Mm,
gotta shift focus. You
yeah.
know.
Yeah, I think that's something to do with the artist kind of mindset as well. That we're always moving from thing to thing and like project to project. Like so, what a job where you're just kind of staying still all the time.
Yeah,
What
no, I
or
can't. I just can't do that. I can't.
yeah,
I can't just be working on the one thing. Actually, my wife was talking to me about this morning. She was like, you were doing that, and then you were really, really keen on that for a while, and then you stopped doing that, and then you did this. I'm like, right,
yeah.
you
But
know,
it
that's
is. It's one.
so
It's just
everybody
one of those
does.
things. But it's
Yeah.
also like when if I'm in a day job and it's soul crushing, I'm like, just give me the same boring task over and over again. Don't try and change it up for me because I
Hmm.
don't want to learn. I don't want. I will happily learn if it's this type of work, like presenting, podcasting, acting, singing, like the whole shebang. I will happily like do everything I can to learn and develop. But in a normal 9 to 5 job, I was like, just give me something where I press a button, go in, do my job, go home. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all I want to do.
Mm.
What? And then he finally was like, "Yeah, I'm actually getting some good traction with this, which is surprising."
No,
Uh,
absolutely.
yeah. Well, and for a lot of people that do know already, but for the ones that don't, Greg was a part of one of my first projects back when I dipped my toe back into the business, the Flower of Scotland cover. We raised £700 for the Scottish Association of Mental Health, and
Amazing.
yeah, I was blown away. It was fantastic. So how did you find it when I rocked up with this idea?
Well, my job every day is dealing with people that come up with, completely, it might be an outlandish idea to me or whatever.
Mm,
But my job is always to be a problem solver, so
mm,
I'm like, okay, right. So what do we have here? Right. And what's my role in this? What do I need to do?
mm,
Um, so at the end of the day, it's kind of like, right, well, what do I need to do to kind of make this as good as it possibly can be?
mm,
So yeah, I mean, that's kind of always just the way I think about it. It's just like, what is it that I can bring to this that's going to make it as good as it possibly can be?
mm. Well, you brought a lot to it, my friend. What the days that I was in the studio with you, just what the little tricks that you could see that I couldn't, or anybody else couldn't, and what best part was we had fun, we had a laugh doing it as well. And that's what made it.
Absolutely, yeah.
What for me as well. And you got to meet a lot of different people. We got to try some different things, and everybody was just up for doing anything really at that point. It was so great. It was just
Hmm.
it was actually a wee weight that kind of lifted off of all of our shoulders with that. And then you started. Then I went on to your one of your courses. So
Hmm.
let's sell the course, my friend. Like what was tell everybody what was your course about?
This was the beginner's guide to content marketing. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, this is something I started doing a few of these maybe about 4 years ago. It's all stuff that I was doing anyway with clients, but you tend to find that the stuff that comes naturally to me or that I've just been doing for years. There's a whole
Mm,
bunch of people that don't do it or have no idea where to get started. So I wanted to
mm,
come up with a seminar and workshop that would help people with practical steps on how to do these things rather than just mind-numbingly going through a PowerPoint display or that kind of thing. It's just like, okay, these are various different things that you can do, and if you do this, then you do that. Then you do that. It's got to be the practical steps that make it seem attainable rather than just you know mind-numbing. Like I say, the PowerPoint thing really, I think, can be just enormously depressing to kind of go through. But if
mm,
you can do it so that there's reference material there for people, but then it's like, okay, now you go and do it.
mm,
Um, it needs to be something that people can then enact themselves.
yeah.
Um, and I think too many people, they'll go on a course or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, I did that course." I'm like, "Yeah, but are you now going to apply it?"
Mm,
And I think that's the trick is then being able to take what you went through in that course and then apply that to how that's going to work in your business or whatever it is that you're seeking to do, you know.
Yeah.
But
Well,
at the end of the day, it comes down to the principles are all the same, you know, whether you're running a cake shop, you know, or whether you're, you know, going to be starting, you know, a podcast, and, you know, a media company, and it all comes down to the same thing. Know what your brand is, know what your brand values are, and everything that you do has to emanate from that, you know, and if it doesn't align with that in the first place, then something's very wrong.
mm,
And it's not going to feel right to the people who are, you know, engaging in your content. They're going to be kind of like, all right, okay. And you
yeah.
want that authenticity thing where people go, oh yeah, I really, really get this. You know, and you can really feel that this person's passionate about the subject, you know, because it feels true to them.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
I
think
can
that's really,
definitely
really
vouch
important.
for it, Greg, that your course was, well, and still is really good. I did the course when I was thinking about starting the podcast
Mhm.
up again, and I wasn't kind of sure how to go about it. What you suggest the course I went on it, and you know, a lot of the tips and a lot of the materials. I've still got the materials, and I still look at them now if I'm ever kind of struggling with an idea or something to do. What it gives me that wee bit of inspiration. And it was
Well, that's
one of
the
the
thing.
key.
It's just you've got that reference point there, you know,
Mm-hmm. And
and
it
it's
was
kind
one
of
of the
like, oh
key
yeah,
factors that
that's where I'm
helped.
at just now. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and it was a key factor that's helped me get to where I am. So, one of the reasons I'd want you to come on was to just kind of say thank you. What was something that helped
You're
me
very
on
welcome.
my way. So aside from that, like obviously the content creation and stuff, but you're a massive Top Gun fan. What
Really?
I think that you're a Top Gun fan. I've got a hunch about it.
Yeah. Mhm.
So what got you into like the way of Tom Cruise and Maverick?
Well, whenever I'm one of these people who remembers it from the first time around. So, um, Top Gun for us was that was in high school
Mm,
when it first came out. So it was just such a huge part of the culture, and you know, the hairstyles and the glasses and the music and everything.
mm,
So whenever I heard that there was going to be, you know, a Top Gun sequel, I was like, they better not mess this up because
mm.
it's just such an iconic thing. But Tom Cruise doesn't mess things up very often, certainly not
No,
in movies. So, and I knew that like if we going to do it, he's going to do it right.
yeah,
Um, but I made this decision sort of last year that okay, whenever they're doing this, I need to do like a Top Gun parody.
mm,
And I ended up doing the James Bond parody last November, and it was
yeah,
like a 4 minute, you know, trailer. So whenever you're doing like a trailer or a mock trailer,
mm,
it doesn't have to make any sense. It can just be a whole bunch of random shots and sort of random jokes. And I was like, oh, that was funny. That was funny. You know,
mm.
because it doesn't have to tie into anything plot wise or anything. It's just like, that was funny.
Yeah. And in fairness,
But
it was very funny. I thoroughly
thank you.
enjoyed it. Mm,
Thanks very much. But then, whenever I was thinking, right, okay, I'm going to do the Top Gun one, I had a few ideas in terms of some of the gags that I wanted to do.
mm.
But then when I started to shoot it, it was like, okay, I think one of the first things we did was the volleyball scene. And I contacted a bunch of friends. I was like, I basically want a bunch of middle-aged, out of shape guys to to shoot the volleyball scene from Top Gun on a beach in air, and and it's just going to look absolutely ridiculous. But you have to do it deadpan
Mm.
as if you're like the hottest guys on the planet. You know, that's just the way we're doing this whole thing.
Yeah.
So the guys who got involved were absolutely brilliant, and we went and we did that, and I think we shot it in about an hour and a half. It was absolutely ridiculous. We had like a kids badminton set, like for a net. So it's like this tiny thing. So things like that, just I think are hilarious. You know, it's like if something's the wrong size and it doesn't look quite right, and then there's little things like there's people walking dogs in the background. It's
Yeah.
like that's just not a cool image as part of you know, the whole Top Gun thing. So
Yeah.
things if it's ridiculous or kind of undermines, you know, what's happening in the foreground, that's always humorous to me.
Yeah.
So we did that scene, and I'm like, okay, that's 2 minutes, and it's all pretty funny. And then I shot the scene with Tim Jarvis where he's shouting at me. And I was like, okay, that's a scene. And then I was like, how am I going to have this make this? It doesn't really make sense as a trailer. So then I did the opening titles. And I spent ages doing the opening titles exactly like Top Gun. I'm like, right,
because it's something you're passionate about, you'll take that bit more time to make sure it's completely perfect. Because a wee Ginger exclusive farewells, I've actually started taking my hand in writing some of my own Thomas kind of fandom content. Well, and I've started doing that, and because I'm a big fan of Thomas, as you know, and like love the series, love the books. But when I was always scared to touch it in case I ruined like that kind of vision. And then one night I just had an idea. And I'm like, right, I'm going to write it down. But I was being so pernickety with the language that the engines used for their characters and all that kind of stuff. And I know that you can relate to that because everything in your background, it is pure Top Gun, and it's at its core. It's great.
But I think that's the thing, is that whenever I've referred to it as a Top Gun parody, but that's really for legal reasons more than anything else. But my brother Ed, who actually does some of the voices, both my brothers Ed and Owen did voices for it, which was very good of them. But they were like, it's more like a love letter to Top Gun rather than, you're not really taking the piss out of it. It's more, you're obviously a huge fan of it, so there was that. And then once I'd done the opening titles, I was like, I kind of need to do the whole thing now, but how am I going to do this? And then I was saying to my wife, okay, there needs to be some kind of love interest, because there's a whole bunch of guys in this just now. And if we're going to do this so it's like believable, we have to kind of have that there. So and then Natalie James was coming into the studio to record with me. She's a really talented singer. And she was coming in to record with me that week. And my wife Linda was like, "What do you get Natalie to do? She's always doing stage stuff and whatever." And I mentioned it to her, and she's like, "Yeah, why not?" And we shot that, and I think we took about 2 hours to shoot that scene, but then it was about 9 hours to edit it. Wow! Because it was just a massive amount of work, because it was close ups, mid shots, wide shots, and then the sound, because it was windy on the night. Then I had to overdub the sound and do all that kind of stuff. I ended up doing my sound the next day. I went back and sat on the wall with the camera and the mic and just kind of re-recorded my lines so I could dub it in so it sounded right. It's like going to that level of it's got to be right. And I think if unless you kind of know about editing and all that sort of things, you just you don't appreciate how much work is involved in it. And that seems like 1 minute and 52 seconds or something like that. But shoot it as if you're shooting a movie, and think of it in terms of, okay, I need that wide shot, I need a close up, I need a mid shot, and then audio, and then do all this kind of stuff. And then edit like that.
Definitely.
So then it was like, okay, we need to have a big finish. We need to kind of do this. So there's like a finale. And I couldn't really do that until I kind of worked out how I was going to do green screen in a believable way. So I wanted to do the green screen stuff, and it had to be good enough so that it was believable, but still shite enough for it to be funny. You know what I mean? It's like, if it was too good, then it would be kind of like, that's not quite, that's not as funny. Because the whole thing is like, there's no budget. So it's like, let's, we don't want to pretend that we do have a budget, but it's got to be good enough to sell a joke.
Yeah, definitely.
So I kind of did a few test shots of it, and I just wasn't happy with it. And then I already announced I was going to be putting that out on July 4th on YouTube.
Yeah.
And that was a Monday. And I did a test shot on the Wednesday before that, where I completely cracked it. I'm like, that's it. That's how we need to do it. So then I got the other guys up to shoot that on Friday. So and then edited the rest of the weekend, and it was all kind of done for Monday. But it was just kind of having an idea in your head of where you want to go. And then just, I kind of had a vague idea where I was going at the start, because I was just going to do a trailer, same kind of thing. But then I was like, I think I need It needs to be bigger than that.
Yeah.
You know, so, and one of the things I decided right at the start more than anything was that every single note of music would be me. I wasn't going to use any stock music or anything like that. So whenever you hear anything in it, it's, you know, I played everything, I wrote everything,
and
I wanted to do some orchestral stuff in it so that, you know, I was doing specific things like Hans Zimmer kind of orchestrations
nice.
for like the end sort of section.
Well,
and
I've got to ask them, because you mentioned Hans Zimmer. Is there any whams?
There's some
Sorry.
stuff like that, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
the
and I
Hans
know how
Zimmer
talented a
horns.
musician you are, like, and how many instruments that you play. It's getting to like Prince level ridiculous of how many instruments you can play, and what fat and brilliantly, I might add.
Thank you.
So so obviously we've got the conference center coming up. What made you finally take the leap for that?
Well, I was kind of joking about it with the guys once we kind of finished it, and I was talking to some of the guys who had helped out, and I was like, you know, it would be really, really hilarious if we did like a red carpet premiere. And they were like, yeah, that'd be, hold on, that's actually a really amazing idea. What are we doing? I was like, yeah, like how would that work? And the thing is, I was like, well, so we kind of looked at cinemas and that kind of thing, and we could do that, but it might be kind of more difficult to do technically, just from the point of view of I might need to go and re-edit things or all of that.
Right.
So I was like, okay, what would be maybe like an easier solution? And we go to C7, the conference center, fairly regularly for like business networking events and that kind of thing. And they've got a great like wee cafe there, like and you know, we just kind of go and hang out. And I was talking to them, and they're like, well, what about here? And I was like, you know what, that's actually not such a bad idea. And then I sort of had a look in the space again, and I'm like, this would be actually perfect. This would be amazing, because there's these 3 huge screens. There's a stage, there's lights, full media kit. There's cameras that are on the stage, so that, you know, if you're on stage, it'll be shown on the screen. So it's basically kind of like doing an arena show. You know, it's like that kind of level of spec.
Yeah.
And the thing is, at C7, they're like, well, this would be amazing for us, because most people see us doing the business expo events and that kind of thing, so they don't really see the room set up like this. So this way we get to use the full tech, and everybody sees, you know, the conference center being used like that.
Yeah.
So they're really excited about being involved, and which is great. And I was like, okay, this is really all very well and good, but I'm not going to pay for this.
Yeah.
So if we're going to do this, we'll do it as a business event, and we'll get businesses to sponsor, and you know, they can cover the cost. So that's what we're doing, and I just got another sponsor signed up today, and we've still got some spaces left for sponsors. But some amazing people have been getting involved, and we've got a goodie bag that's gone out to everybody. Like whenever you arrive, you know, there's going to be goodie bags there, and there's just all sorts of I don't want to give the game away, but there's just fun stuff that just kind of makes it on brand, shall we say.
Oh, definitely. Well,
a Top Gun themed bar for a start whenever we come in.
Oh, that's going to be fantastic. That is going to be absolutely amazing. So do the plugs for anybody that maybe listen to an audio. So when, where, the time, all that stuff.
Yep. So it's Pop Gun Party, and it's on September 16th, 7 till 9 p.m. It's a Friday, and it's at C7 Conference Center. You can get tickets on Eventbrite. The tickets are available there, and there's all kinds of different ticket types that all have ridiculous names, you know, like Flying Solo, Junior Wingman. Kids tickets are Tot Guns. And then if you're getting a family ticket, that's a Squadron ticket. You know, I was like, let's just, if we're going to do this, let's do this right and make it completely ridiculous.
Definitely, man. That is the way to go. And as you said, it's on brand, and that's what I've obviously seen your brand firsthand I didn't intentionally mean that to rhyme, but it worked. Well, and it's you all over, and you, as is what you see is what you get. I'm so proud of you for everything that you've done with it. It's clearly a labor of love. Well, you've worked hard on it. Like everything that you do, you work extremely hard on it, and that's why I wanted to try and get you on to give it a bit more a plug. It needs eyeballs on it because
Absolutely.
it looks fantastic. And for anybody that maybe does want to check you out on the socials, tell them where they can find you. Sell it, my friend.
Well, you can find me. I'm Freelance Music. That's FRIELANCE music. And I'm everywhere on Instagram and Twitter, etc. I'm on LinkedIn as well. I'm very active on LinkedIn on this one because it is a business event as well. Really, we're getting businesses involved, and Facebook. So, but you'll find me everywhere sharing all kinds of mad content in the run up to this as well. You know, we're going to be doing some posts with our sponsors and that kind of stuff, and little bits and pieces we'll be kind of releasing along the way.
Brilliant. And for anybody that is watching the video, the links will be in the description below, so please check them out if you can. So we're coming up on time, and I'm going to ask you the final question that I ask all my guests. If you could give one piece of advice to anybody struggling with mental health issues at this point in time, what would that piece of advice be and why?
I would say realize that all problems are temporary. More than anything, it might feel like the worst day ever, but literally tomorrow is another day. But for me, it's not being afraid to reach out to other people and say, you know what, I'm struggling a bit here. And as I say, like I've been kind of lucky in that I've got some really good friends who are very supportive of me, and I'm supportive of them. And I think you've just got to realize that you're never, as much as you might feel like you're on your own, you're alone. There's always people out there that love you and care about you. So don't be afraid to reach out to them and ask for help. Because sometimes it can just be a conversation that you have with somebody can just make all the difference. You know, like, for example, I mean, it wasn't a massive big deal, but I was just having a rubbish day yesterday, and sometimes we all just have rubbish days. And then I got a text from a friend, and they gave me some good news, and it was just like a wee lift that I needed. And we all need that, you know, and just I think having a support network around you is just really, really important. And certainly for me, for too long, I was like, I do this all by myself. That's my thing. And as much as I'm still doing that in a lot of ways, because that's where the joy is for me in the creative, I have a group of people around me that are close to me, that are friends and supportive, that really help to ease the burden. And I think that's really, really important more than anything else, is knowing that, you know, there's people out there, even whenever you think you might be feeling that on that particular day that this is hopeless or this is frustrating or this is depressing or whatever. But there's always positivity out there. And at the end of the day, you get what you look for as well. You know, if you want to find miserable negativity on the internet, you'll find it. If you want to find uplifting positivity, you'll find it. So yeah, I would say just don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yep, definitely, Greg. And one thing that we've learned about social media is that if you look for negative content, the analytics will direct you to even more negative content.
Yeah.
So yeah, they get involved in this cycle down your social media. Well, Greg, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, man. Thank you so much. Everybody, check out Pop Gun Friel the Need when it comes out. It's Friel the Need, not Feel the Need. Love the puns. Absolutely love them.
It's always a ridiculous pun with me, Andrew.
Yep, definitely. And for another little plug that I never got to say, but just before we're going, Greg also does some hypnosis videos, and they are absolutely amazing. They are brilliant. I highly recommend them to anybody, because I have had them myself. Had Alison listening to them as well. She loved them. She thought they were brilliant. Right, so we'll
That's
get
my Friel Good in 5 meditation.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. I cannot recommend it enough.
I'm redefining what meditation is.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, it's making meditation. It's breaking the stigma of meditation. I think a little bit,
Or
and
ruining meditation, depending on your
well,
point of view.
well, I think you didn't. I think I think you've revitalized it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So until next time, my faithful followers, I've been Andrew Durning. This has been the amazing Greg Friel. Go see Pop Gun, Friel the Need. If you can get along to the C7 Conference Centre on the 16th of September at 7 p.m., please do. And until next time, take care, stay safe. Bye bye.